Hello and welcome to my tutorial. Today I would like us to look at how to design Likert Scale questionnaire for research or dissertation. So if you are a researcher new to academic research, I encourage you to sit, relax and watch this tutorial to the end. I promise that you are going to learn a lot on how to design a Likert Scale questionnaire. If you are also a graduate student or an undergraduate, I encourage you to sit, relax and watch the tutorial to the end because I've got a lot to teach you today. So there are 3 ways to design your Likert Scale questionnaire. Number 1, which I mostly recommend, is to adopt validated measurement scales. So what do I mean by adopting validated measurement scales? For example, if I want to work on students' ambition, university commitment, or any other variable, I may have to look for validated measurement scales. So that is number 1 and most recommended. So I try to use these pictorial images to explain the concept of adopting measurement scales. The first image, you can see bulbs, screwdriver, plier. So these are tools developed in engineering for people to engage in their learning activities. The second one is for those in agriculture. These are tools that have been already designed by others, developed by others. So all you need to do is get a wheelbarrow, get your shovel, get your pesticide dispenser, and then go on to carry on your activity, your research work. Supposing I want to plant some sets of crops and want to start measuring them over time. So these tools, I can simply adopt them. So what it means is that I'll simply use the tools to carry out my research activities. Now the third one is for those in the medical laboratory field. So that's a clear example of a medical laboratory facility. So as a lab scientist, as a lab technologist, or as a pharmacist, all you need to do is come into the lab and use any of these tools to carry out your research activities. Now in social sciences, when I'm talking about social sciences here, I mean those in education, those in management field, those in small business, those in psychology, arts and humanities. I just want to group all of them here into social science research. So you can actually think about these pictures when we talk about adopting already validated measurement scales. Now, because the measurement scales we use are mostly for measuring human behaviors, so they are not like tools that we can handle with our bare hands. So there are people who have developed already validated measurement scales. Now all we need to do is to adopt those measurement scales in our own study and then go on to collect data for our study. Now let me show you an example of some validated measurement scales. So this is number 1. This was developed by Zhang et al. 2021. Actually, it's actually 2020, but now 2021 in the journal. It has been assigned volume and things. So you can pause and then get the title and pull the paper down and read. The paper is titled Development and Validation of the Career-Related Teacher Support Scale, Data from China. Let me also show you another one. This is Self-Perceived Employability, Construction and Initial Validation of a Scale for University Students. If you are researching in the area of perceived employability, student commitment, ambition, students' learning ambition, as the case may be, you may want to check out this particular paper by Rothwell et al. 2007. So in this study, I adopted Rothwell's measurement scale. So because I worked on work placement learning and students' readiness for school to work transition, do perceived employability and faculty supervisor support matter? So let me quickly take you to the methodology and measure section. So under perceived employability, you can see it said we measure this variable by using 16 item, that is initial and external perceived employability scale for students. So I had to use the measurement scale without changing it. For example, an item statement and a sample item says, the skills and abilities I possess are what employers are looking for. That is an example of one of the item statements. Okay, so let me take you to Rothwell, and let me take you to the measurement scales where it was listed. Okay, so look at that. So that is 7B. The skills and the abilities that I possess are what employers are looking for. Let me show you. This is a typical example of the measurement scales. Okay, so look at that. Also, for the external perceived employability scale, okay, a sample item includes employers are eager to employ graduates from my university. Let me tell you that. Let me show you that. Look at that. That is 2A. Employers are eager to employ graduates from my university. So in this case, I did not make any change. I just put it exactly the way it is, use it to develop my questionnaire, which students, so in this case, it's just like saying the first one, let's say for the first one, so this is my questionnaire, for example, let's say example, this is my questionnaire and that I'm designing, so I can simply put it here and then create it. So maybe if you want to use Google Form, you want to use whatever online approach, you can actually use it to now go on to collect your data. Okay, so for the one that Zhang developed, you can see that this is a whole study on its own. Developing item statement is a whole lot of study on its own. It's a full study. So some people, I see a lot of students, postgraduate students, when they want to do their studies, they will start writing their own item statements. Okay, so there are lots of analysis that go into scale development. So you can see this. Zhang decomposed the career-related teacher support into 3: enhancement of self-exploration, informational support, and emotional support. And these are the item statements that were measured. Okay, you can see this. You can see I3, I4, I5, and so on up to I16. So these are the measurement scales that Zhang developed. And so after all the analysis that went in, the discussion, how he did that, how he went about surveying people, now he came up with the overall final version of the measurement scales. Okay, so he said each item is started with a sentence of my teachers at my school or college or at university. So supposing I'm conducting a study in the university, so it can be my teachers at my university help me identify my strength and weaknesses. So this is what you're going to put in your own. Let's say, for example, this is the questionnaire that I want. Example. So this is number 1. So this is what I'm going to put here. I will say my teachers in my university. Okay, you can see that. Help me identify. Let me zoom this a little bit. Okay, so this is going to be like my teachers in my university help me to identify my strengths and weaknesses. Number 2, so I head over to that, so that's going to be this one. For example, remember that this work is talking about career related teacher support. So it's going to be my teachers in my university help me develop my career values. You can see that. So this is how you can simply, all you need to do is adopt this time. So you pick all of them here. You pick all of them here, all right? Up to the 6 of them. So that is what it means to adopt. So this one is the factor 1, which is enhancement of self-exploration. Now let us look at the factor 2, which is informational support. So when you are done creating the first questionnaire, which let's say questionnaire on enhancements of self-exploration, so when you're done with that, so the next one will be questionnaire on informational support. So you are going to have, so you're going to also lift this table, for example. Let me just make it easier for you to learn. So I'm going to knock this one out. I'm going to knock this one out as well. So I head over to this point. So you can see that my teachers in my school or my university, so let's say number 1, my teachers in my university, because these have already gone through validation. So you can see that. Explain. Let me take another one so it will make more sense to you. Career positions. Okay, so that makes sense, right? So my teachers at my university explain to me possible career paths or related positions. So this is how you so this is how you develop this is how you design your questionnaire, by adopting. Let's say I also want to talk about university commitment. So I can pull this. Let's say one of my variables here, for example, is university commitment. Okay, so I'm going to have questionnaire and university's commitment. So I'm going to remove these ones. I'm going to remove that. So, and when you adopt, you try to explain where you get that. Zhang et al. 2021 bracket closed. When you are reporting that, for example, let me show you in my own work. Now you can see this was measured. So you put where you got it and the author, the year. Okay, now the next thing you also want to report, this time in your own study, now you also want to report the Cronbach's alpha of the original measurement scale. So this Cronbach's alpha actually came from Rothwell, came from this paper. Okay, it came from this particular paper. Now this is the scale for university commitment. So I take up this university. Now let me see that the first one is Rothwell et al. 2008. Okay, yeah, Rothwell. I think I wrote his name well. Okay, so this is the first one. So let's say I take this one. I find that my values and this university values are very similar. University commitment scale. So I'm adopting, I'm not making any change. Let's say I also want to talk about ambition. Rothwell also provided ambition scale. Okay, questionnaire for students' ambitions. I don't know, maybe learning ambition, something like that. And I can also copy this and let's see, pull this up a little. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna delete this. Just want to show you example of adopting measurement scale. So you can see ambition scale items. For example, this one said, I want to be in a position to do mostly work which I really like. Okay, let's put this one here. 2. So this is, I regard myself as highly ambitious. So all you need to do is lift all of them. So you simply copy all of them. You simply copy all of them. All this A1 to A6, and use them to have your questionnaire into. So this is just for demonstration. So it's supposed to be all of them. So you use it to collect your data. That means you have adopted the validated measurement scale. The second one is to adapt the measurement scales. What do we mean by adapting measurement scales? Now, if you take a look at this picture here, you can see that the tool is already produced by probably another person. This is already produced by another person, but you can see the lady trying to make some adjustments to the tool to enable her or to carry out her research activity. If you look at the second image, so you can see the person adjusting the knots using spanner to make some adjustments so that it will be easier for him or her to use the tool for whatever reason he or she wants to use it for. So in social science research, we can adapt the measurement scales. So what it means is that we can make some adjustments. Let me show you a typical example of what it looks like to adapt measurement scales in social sciences or social science research or social sciences research, as the case may be. Now let me take you to here. For example, I said this was measured by adapting the 11-item internship related learning outcome scale by the author here. This scale was titled internship related learning. Now the word internship in the original scale by this author was rewarded as work placement learning, because internship has various terms. Some call it internship, some call it work placement learning, some call it student industrial work experience, as in the case of Nigeria. Some people call it IT, industrial attachment. So whatever the case, the name is work placement learning, which conveys the idea that students are leaving the university environment to go to the industry to acquire some set of employability skills for some time and then return back to continue their studies. So that is the concept of work placement learning. So because these measurement scales talked about skills, talked about the learning outcomes of engaging in internship related learning, which is also work placement learning, I had to now use the measurement scale. But again, I adapted it in this case because I made slight modification. So I only changed the words. So let me show you example what that means. Let's say this is my teachers in my university help me identify my strength and my weakness. So now let me say I want to adapt. So I can say my supervisor at my workplace help me identify my strength and my weakness. Okay, I can also make that change here. This is adapting. Let's say my supervisors at my workplace help me develop my career values. So in this case, it is no longer adopting, rather I just adapted. So I have made modifications. Okay, but when the modification becomes too much, when you over modify the measurement scale, which you must report in your own study, in your thesis, in your dissertation, that you changed so and so words into this. Just like in this case, it was clearly stated, emphatically stated, that the word internships was, rewarded as work placement. So you need to be straightforward in doing that, because I always say that in research, what is most important is not the end product, but the processes that led to your findings must be very straightforward. So that is what it is to adapt. So when you find an existing measurement scale, you make slight modification just to adjust it small. I didn't say to change it entirely. If you modify beyond what the original scale had in mind, then it is no longer adapting. Now you are doing another thing. Now, when you adapt the measurement scale, what you need to do is to subject it to exploratory factor analysis. When you make extensive modifications to someone else's measurement scales, when you make extensive modifications, not just to change a few words, maybe one or two words, if it's extensive, then you have to subject that measurement scale to exploratory factor analysis. Now, why is it important for us to have, adopt or adapt already validated measurement scales? It's not enough. When you develop your own item statements, you see undergraduate students or postgraduate students running to lecturers to say, oh, can you help me to validate the measurement scale that I have developed? So what can the lecturer do? The lecturer will probably look at the words. They probably want to look at the words. Let's say, okay, they want to look at the, okay, my supervisors at my workplace help me identify my strengths and weaknesses. Assuming that this item statement here contains errors in English language or contains unclear terms, they can help you to correct the English word. So when a lecturer corrects the English word, that does not mean that he has validated the measurement scale, the instrument, or the item statement. That's not correct. That is called face validity. So you just want to content and face validity. You just want to look at it. Oh, okay, it reads good. It reads good. But that does not mean that the respondents will understand what you have done. It does not mean that the respondent who will respond to this questionnaire will be able to ascribe meaning to the statements as it applied to them. So, but what can help us to understand whether they have done that is when you do exploratory factor analysis to now explore the changes you've made in your own study context. Okay? But when you adopt, when you do not make any change, no changes were made in the original measurement scale, you do not need to do an exploratory factor analysis. All you need to do is to go on to run a CFA confirmatory factor analysis. I've got some videos on confirmatory factor analysis. So the next one that I want us to look at is to self-develop your measurement scales. So this means that there are no instruments to measure your variables. Thus, you must develop your own. So now I try to use these three images to explain the concept. There are no tools No screwdriver, no particular type of screwdriver can actually be used to screw. And so the researcher now wants to first of all self-develop his or her own. So in the field of engineering, sciences, and technology, these pictures explain how you can create your own. So let me show you typical steps for self-developing your measurement skills. It is a work on its own. It's a lot of job to do, but I find Serena Carpenter's work quite interesting, and it's very clear and simple, straightforward on how you can self-develop your own measurement scale. So you may want to pause the video and then get this paper and read through it. It's a beautiful, brilliant paper. So, but let me just take you straight to the pictorial model that the model that Carpenter developed. So in this model, this is the sum of all that Serena talked about in this paper. So the first thing is to do a thematic analysis of literature. So you need to explore several literature, trying to conceptualize the ideas to see what the literature has already said about the concepts or about the variables that you want to measure. 2, that will lead you to the concept labels, conceptual definitions, dimensions. So you need to clearly spell out the variables. Now you've understood the variables, the definitions of the variables, and then whether you want to decompose the variable. For example, let me show you what it means to decompose a variable. So in this case, Zhang decomposed career-related teacher support into 3. 1, which is the first factor, enhancement of self-exploration. 2, informational support. 3, emotional support. So these 3 dimensions make up career-related teacher support. I've done several videos on how and why you should decompose your variables to have several dimensions. Because if you decompose your variable, you have opportunities to explore more, make more contributions to knowledge than measuring just career-related teacher support. So in this case, you can see that from the career-related teacher support as the actual variable here, the researcher Zhang was able to decompose it into 3 factors or into 3 dimensions. Okay? Carpenter talks about the importance of dimensions. So you might need to take your time to read through the paper. And so that will lead you to qualitative research. So you may want to go into a qualitative research to explore those concepts, those variables that may have emerged from the thematic analysis of the literature that you have already done. So a qualitative research will entail you developing interview protocol where you design important questions that you may want to ask. So this will lead to interviews, focus groups, observations, and so on and so forth. So this will now enable you to develop the item statements, to develop these, let's say for example, enhancement of self-exploration. So from the interviews you will conduct, you'll be able to find out, you'll be able to come up with this statement from the illustrative quotes in the study. Those you've interviewed, you can get these item statements from them. From what they shared, the information they gave you, you can actually extract these item statements from their quotes. So this is a way you can self-develop your own measurement scale. So you don't get up one morning and say, yes, I have developed my own measurement scale, and you begin to quote things that are not real. That will lead us to pre-test. So you want to check out, you want to pre-test the measurement scales that you may have developed from the qualitative research, and that will lead to seeking expert feedback. You want to meet some experts to ask certain questions. Can you look at that? Look at this, and give them time to give you their feedback. That can help to further improve the measurement scale, and then you now go for pilot test. So when you go for pilot test, what is important? Pilot tests will enable you to explore the measurement scales which you have self-developed in a separate area, different from the one for your main study. So the reason is this: you do not want to use measurement scales that you're not sure of for your main study. So you want to sample a very small population and then share the questionnaire to them, and then they will respond to the questionnaire, and then you analyze the questionnaire using exploratory factor analysis. I've done some videos on exploratory factor analysis that will now guide you. If you read this paper by Zhang and Rothwell, you will also know that they also passed through the exploratory factor analysis before they could arrive at these item statements. In most cases, they also collected a separate data, I'm sure. Let me check. I think Zhang did study 1. You can see for Zhang, this is study 2, confirmatory factor analysis and construct validity. Now you can see that the study 1 was exploratory factor analysis. So the exploratory factor analysis enabled him to explore using a different sample size. Okay, you can see Zhang used a total of 1,212 students for the main study for the confirmatory factor analysis that led to the final production of the measurement scales that anyone can adapt. Now for the study 1, you can see the exploratory factor analysis. Zhang used 474 participants to explore the data in China among Chinese population. So the next part I also want to talk about is the ethical consent issues when collecting data. And I said failure to obtain informed consent can lead to ethical violations. Most people bump into people and just give them questionnaire to fill. And that is why I prefer the sometimes online questionnaire where the ethical issue must be first presented. So the respondent will first of all read it. If the person agrees, the person will now move on to start responding to your. So the pictorial image here explains the concept. The participants must willingly agree to participate in your study. If they do not willingly agree to participate in your study, then you are looking for trouble. So I try to capture them using these points here. Number 1 is informed consent. You must have to seek the consent of the people or the participants. 2, privacy and confidentiality. You do not go to reveal the information that someone provided to you, okay, or you mention their name in your study. The third one is vulnerable population. So you do not want to use people who cannot express themselves, like the children or the very elderly individuals, okay, with cognitive impairment. So if you must use pupils, secondary school or primary school pupils who are not up to the age of 18 years, for example, in Nigeria, someone who is 18 is assumed to be an adult. So when someone is not up to 18 years, the person is unable to give you, may not be able to give you his or her consent. So you may need to go through the guardians, either the parents or the teachers or the school principal or the headmaster, to obtain informed consent. Now in this case, the parents of the pupils or the principal or the teachers will have to go through the questionnaire to be sure that you are not seeking information that will hurt the children or the vulnerable individuals. This is quite important. You need to obey that. The next one is coercion and undue influence. You do not want to coerce people into responding to your questionnaire. Please respond now. Please, can you please respond? You just want to keep on bombing people with emails if it is online. But that does not mean that you should not remind people. Maybe once in a week or once in 2 weeks, you can send a subtle reminder, not to coerce them, but to plead. Okay? And then you do not want to influence them by saying, if you respond to my questionnaire, you are going to get $20. Please kindly respond. So that can induce people to provide information that are not really applicable to them. So you do not want to do that, and that will lead to false conclusion. So the last one is conflict of interest. So researchers must beware of conflicts of interest and bias. So you do not want to allow your personal feelings, bias, opinion to reflect in your study. You need to be neutral as the researcher. So that leads to the next part, which is demographic information. So when designing your questionnaire, you need to have demographic information. And these demographic information include, number one, age and gender. And normally the demographic information can be analyzed using descriptive statistics. Sometimes they do not contribute so much because they are not really the variables of focus, but they are very, very helpful and necessary in your research. You need demographic information as well as the control variables. Why do you need them? Statistically, control variables will help to suppress the effect of the dependent variable, such that the effects that come from the independent variables will not be inflated, will not be bloated. Okay, so you can now be sure that the effect that comes from the independent variable will be accurate, at least close to accurate. So in this case, I have a dependent variable, which is university commitment. So some of the control variables and demographic information you may want to have in your questionnaire can include age, gender, ethnicity, marital status. And how do you do that? For example, in your own questionnaire, before you start, you can say Part A contains information about your demography, okay, something like that. So you can have something like age, and under age you may want to give some range. The best is to give a range, so you do not ask people, tell me your age. So most people wouldn't want to give you such information, but you can say let's say 20 to 25 years old, okay. Then you can say 26 to 30 years old, something like that, okay, as the case may be. So you keep on having that, so you build it into your questionnaire. All right, so this will enable those within this age bracket to tick this, those within this age bracket will tick this. The next one can be gender, so where you have male and female, okay. Then if necessary, for example, let me take you back to this. So in this case of university commitment, ethnicity it may or may not be one of the control variables that you may want to have. There are other important control variables that you may also want to have in your study. For example, in this case of university commitment among students, you can have major or field of study. The major means the particular discipline that the student is into. It may likely influence the student's commitment. The next one is academic year. It is important that our students stay in the university longer. From the first year to the second year, they may likely become more committed. So that may work. GPA, maybe if the student is able to understand his or her GPA at the first year, that may also make the students to commit more to teaching and learning program. The next one is the psychological variable, which is also important. It could form your control variable here. But remember that the only demographic information could be these ones. The first one. So these other ones are referring to control variables. Now, your control variable can be psychological. For example, motivation. Maybe is the student motivated? Are you motivated to participate in the class or to go to lectures? Self-efficacy, yes, I believe in my ability to get committed. Locus of control, personality traits like conscientiousness. Is the student so inquisitive, always willing to learn something? That can also form a control variable. Again, attitude towards learning. That can also form a control variable. That can also be a control variable. The next one is institutional variables. Can also serve as control variables for you. For example, type of institution, public or private, campus, culture, availability of support services from the institution. The next one can be social support. Is it possible that support from the family can enhance the student's commitment to university teaching and learning program? Social integration on campus, how good people mingle with each other, the institution's ability to support social integration and extracurricular activities. Is it possible that it can also influence? So you can see that the arrows here are pointing to the variables, showing that you can use any of these for control variable. But again, one thing that is most important here is that in control variables, if you are using control variables or what some people call confounding variable, they are not really the main focus of your study, so they are not mostly discussed under your discussion session. You just mention them in passing. So if you find that any of the control variables significantly influenced university commitment, for example, you do not go into detail to discuss that, because that is not part of the hypothesis you've posed, and the control variables are not part of the research questions that you asked, so you do not go into discussing them, right? Now again, the measurement scale for measuring to measure the control variables, you do not design them in form of Likert questionnaire like this. So control variables are mostly asked with yes or no. Okay, like you have gender, male and female. For example, let me pick this for example. Let me say family support. I can use this to form one of the preliminary questions. I can say, how often do you perceive support from your family? Or how often do you perceive family support? However, and you can have this as often, not often. So control variables are not mostly designed to have Likert scale of strongly agreed, no. Because the effect, so that they don't become like Likert scale questionnaires. If you want to measure any of the variables, for example, you want to test regression, you need to convert the Likert scale responses into continuous variable. So for control variables or confounding variables or demographics, you do not need to convert them into continuous variable to enable you conduct a parametric test. So that is why you do not need to make your control variables to look like Likert scale questionnaire, ordinal scale. This is how you can design your Likert scale questionnaire for your research or dissertation. I would like you to leave your comments at the comment section. If you have questions, you can ask your question at the comment section. If you need support, you can send an email and I'll be willing to add a voice, maybe book one-on-one session with you online, and then we can discuss your research. Thank you so much for watching.